upon Monica Elias to join us to present her spiritual journey.
There's a nice fan here. Good yontif. In the spring of second grade, I returned from Hebrew school and handed my mother a gorgeous, glossy 8x10 certificate with an illustration of a leafy oak tree. I proudly presented her this certificate and told her that I'd planted a tree in Israel in her memory. So this news was not greeted the way I imagined it would. What? My mother asked, with the intonation only a German Jewish mother can master. In my memory? You see, I had been given two choices. I could plant a tree in honor of someone or in memory of someone. Honor sounded like an old man in a robe, but memory sounded like remembering, so I checked that box. In retrospect, I'm not sure if the religious school was deeply saddened by the supposed premature death of my mother, or perhaps didn't know the difference between honor and memory either. In any case, I had done something good and Jewish, but then it was rendered embarrassing and wrong by a seemingly blithe formality. This is how I felt about being Jewish. There were ways to dress, things to eat on certain days. There was the paradox of living life to the fullest in lieu of those who could not. In my mother's conservative synagogue, I was part of an audience, while on the bima, the rabbi, cantor, and the man we called the super Jew presided. We all knew our part. Our roles were remarkably separate. Ladies often congregated around, congratulated me on how well behaved I was during Yom Kippur services, meaning I had spent about 3 hours standing up and sitting down, not understanding much, and mostly thinking about my Halloween costume. The services in my father's Spanish-Portuguese synagogue were even more prescribed. Women had to sit up on the balcony, away from all the action below. But it was a whole lot more fun for me than for my brother, because upstairs there was a nonstop talking about family news and who was making halak. Halak is a date syrup. It's used by Indian Jews instead of haroset for Passover. We ate it all year round, though. You can now get it in a jar, but it was a prized possession because making it made the entire house sticky and hot for days, and not many people were willing to do that. When I started seriously dating a non-Jewish boyfriend, my parents were tremendously relieved that there was a sliver of a chance I might actually provide them with grandchildren. They gave up caring about marriage long ago by this point. It was all about the grandchildren. They took it upon themselves to inform Roy of the deep and significant history of the Jewish people. We were given tickets to Yom HaShoah talks at the 92nd Street Y. Roy attended services with us and fasted on Yom Kippur. Well, he fasted until one year at Anbeißen, the German term for breakfast. He overheard guests discussing where the best lunch special was in walking distance to the synagogue. Oddly, it's only because Roy isn't Jewish that we came to BHS, and I discovered a new kind of Judaism. When I started attending services, I got really dressed up. I was expecting the same actor audience, scenario, but I didn't find it. I found a community welcoming each of us as an individual, not as a Greek chorus. I didn't have a playbook for this. In fact, I still don't know how to address the rabbi. When is it rabbi, or rabbi lip, or Serge? The melodies were different for me, and there was so much English to get used to. But it was more accessible for Roy, and it was actually more accessible for me too. We found a community we felt comfortable in. And strangely, our boys asked to go to Hebrew school in first grade. So I knew however we were presenting Judaism to them, it was enticing and they wanted more. Frankly, my imparting Jewish knowledge only went so far. Before Hebrew school, Jason asked me, "Are we English or are we Jewish?" And when I asked him if he knew the 4 questions for the upcoming Seder, he nodded. And when I asked him to recite one, he said, "Why do those spiky things come out of the top of the pineapple?" Through the years, we've become more active at BHS because there were opportunities to participate and learn in a relaxed environment. It's a place where joys are celebrated and sorrows are understood, where we can attempt to learn bridge, go running on Sunday mornings, watch a movie, or even learn about other religions. It is a community and a spiritual center. And when I hear the Kol Nidra during Yom Kippur services, the same melody I grew up with, I'm overwhelmed. Not just because of the beauty of the sound, which is so moving, but because once a year, it spans the enormity of experience from Judaism of my youth to the Judaism we enjoy now. A few years ago, on a weekly visit to my parents, my mother asked where Roy was. "He's at a meeting at BHS to help with the gala," I explained. In other words, her non-Jewish son-in-law was at the synagogue while her daughter ate herring and cream sauce with her, gossiping about cousins. It didn't get much better than that for my mother. Last year, both my parents died. My siblings and I had mountains of files to review, and in one, marked Monica's work, I found, you probably guessed it, a glossy 8x10 certificate illustrated with an oak tree. And now it's entirely fitting that somewhere in Israel is a strong, leafy tree I planted with just the right amount of love and pride in second grade in the memory of Renata Elias, my mother. Thank you.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you. With you.